Hey, welcome back to Business 150, Introduction to Management. We are now starting out module number 9. Module 9, which deals with the whole topic of human resource management. Many of us, of course, are very used to interacting with an HR department when we are applying for a job, when we're interviewing, when they make us an offer, when they onboard us, when we do all the kinds of things that we interact formally as an employee with a company. And for some of us, perhaps who have some experience or familiarity with small business, we know on the other side of things, or at least perhaps we've seen it, when a sole proprietor or an owner of a small business is scratching their head trying to deal with HR issues, hiring, training, all those kinds of things, right? It is a very big deal and a very important function of what management is all about. I mean, come on. If you can't properly find the right people, get them hired on, get them trained and producing for the sake of your company and your company's objective goals, then what are we talking about, right? This is one of the crucial functions of business, and quite frankly, one of the functions that maybe doesn't get as much attention as it ought to when we talk about these kinds of overview classes. So here you can see from the title slide of this very first video in this module, we are looking at today human resource management. What is human resource management? We know what human resources are. We have a vague idea that these resources have to be managed. Well, like all resources need to be managed. But of course, now because you are dealing with people, simultaneously the most frustrating class of resources to manage, and yet the class of resources with the potential, the only class of resources with the potential to exponentially increase organizational performance. So this is crucial, this is important, and quite frankly, it's not easy. And so we hope that at the end of this video, you will be able to define the term human resource management and make a list of its primary activities. That's really the goal of this first video as we introduce this module to you with this very first video. So, what does managing human resources require? What do HR folks do? Well, you see here a short list. Yeah, it's 16 different functions, but this is not even comprehensive, right? But these are some of the big categories of what HR deals with. Everything from recruitment, to interviewing, to hiring, to onboarding, to training, to establishing and getting you to agree to compensation, to benefits, to performance management, to continuing education and organizational development, employee safety, employee wellness, maintaining employee motivation, communicating salient and necessary HR practices to all employees, setting and establishing and maintaining HR policy, as well as conducting offboarding and exits. This is, like I said, this is not even a comprehensive list, and yet this is a full boat. No wonder that companies of all sizes really do need someone prioritizing and paying attention to the management of human resources. Now, why? Well, you see here, from the left to the right, what kind of employees do you want? Do you want happy, productive employees, or do you want folks who are so unhappy they are just pulling their hair out? We've already given you statistics in an earlier module of how few employees, statistically in the United States, self-report that they're actually engaged with their work, engaged with the organization, engaged in what they are called to do on a daily basis by their employer. Far more, over 50% of the employees in the United States, closer to 60 or 70%, depending on the year that you look at the survey data, really tend to be employees on the right of this slide rather than the ones on the left. No doubt you understand the implications on organizational goals and productivity, much less folks who are so miserable they may actually be just collecting money and trying to sabotage your company. Yeah, that is what is at stake, and therefore that's what makes this module as key as it is. Well, the nature of human resource management, the primary tasks, even though I've given you that list of 16 different activities, the primary tasks of human resource management, as we look at in the textbook, the textbook will tell us the primary tasks of HRM: forecasting the number of employees an organization will need, forecasting the type of employees an organization will need, so not just the number, but the type as well, and then finding them, hiring them, and developing their necessary skills on behalf of the organization. That's what Chapter 9 will tell us right out of the gates is the primary role of HRM. Forecasting both the number of employees and the type of employees that an organization is going to need, and then finding them, hiring them, and keeping them on board. So let's talk about forecasting. What does forecasting future HR needs mean? It means that when you consider the job characteristics and the worker qualifications that are necessary for those job characteristics, that HR has to begin forecasting by simply answering these questions. What tasks make up a job? What KSAs does a worker need to succeed in the job? KSA is an acronym that's common in HR, known as knowledge, skills, and abilities. What does a worker need to bring to the table in order to succeed in this job? And also, for this job role, what information, equipment, and materials does this job tend to use? And therefore, what are the typical working conditions that a worker can expect? That's where forecasting future HR needs begins. And then it turns, you can see here an example of a specific outline, a partial list of tasks and KSAs for the position of a regional sales manager in a particular organization. You can see here that this is table 9.1 reproduced from the textbook. So you can see there, at least in this partial list, the job tasks listed, you see 3 of them there. Whoever fills this role has to be able to use data from the previous year's numbers from the sales numbers, the present state of the economy, customer purchasing trends, the competitors in the region, in order to use this data to develop a sales forecast for each product item for the next 6 months. That's one primary task that the regional sales manager apparently has to perform. What else? The regional sales manager has to interview applicants for sales positions and, together with the district manager, decide which applicants to select. That manager has to oversee online training, experience forms, ability tests, and performance tests in the interview process. Number 3, the regional sales manager needs to develop promotion and sales campaigns using data from the sales forecast, from recent sales, from market surveys that the company will obtain, and from competitors' promotion and sale practices. That's what the regional sales manager needs to do. Now, that's not all, that's just a partial list. In order to accomplish these things, what kinds of knowledge, skills, and abilities does the successful candidate need to have? And you can see here, has to have a working knowledge of spreadsheets and sales software. That particular item is not specific whether there's a particular sales package that they're using or just in general familiar with any type of sales software. Number 2, the ability to use situational interviewing for selection of sales staff. Number 3, the ability to design a promotion campaign for each product for a 6-month time period. And number 4, the ability to develop and analyze statistical data for sales forecasting. So you can see here, this particular description for a regional sales manager seems to be data heavy, as well as life cycle promotional heavy, and also HR heavy, that this successful candidate needs to be able to successfully interview and hire subordinate sales positions. So you can sort of get an idea what that job can look like, right? And so that helps at the very beginning to forecast, well, how many of these folks are you going to need, and where do you find folks who might have these KSAs and the experience necessary to succeed in this particular role? Alrighty, so we hope that you can then see from this very short little video, what is human resource management all about? You can see that there's textbook description, and then there's the larger representative list of types of activities and types of practices that human resource management has to be able to engage with and succeed in. And we hope that's helpful. This is, again, one of these kinds of things where most of us have some experience dealing with someone in HR, but for many of us, the whole question of the HR department and what they do can be a little bit of a mystery to those of us who have never really looked at the subject before. So we hope that as you take a look at the content in the textbook, as well as this series of video micro lectures, that will begin to sort of pull back the curtain and give you a better idea. What is human resource management? What are they called to do? And how does it all work? Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next lecture.